Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted today to be joined by Katie King, CEO of AI in Business and author of two books on AI, looking at how you apply AI within the business, with the second book focusing on AI strategy for sales and marketing. So, welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Craig. Great to be here.
In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the ways businesses can use AI to drive their success. And just before we get into that, we thought we'd stick on the theme of marketing and ask you, what's the best ad campaign you've seen over the past 12 months?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the best I've seen is Heinz ketchup. And actually, it uses AI and it uses the metaverse. And it's superb for the way it engages all of the community. They got incredible impressions, incredible feedback, amazing engagement with all of the different countries around the world. And they actually use the AI to help, if you like, tailor it for all different countries and come up with labels as to what ketchup might look like in space, what ketchup might look like in the future, what ketchup it means in all different countries. They created a metaverse gallery for what ketchup looks like. So it was very much kind of user generated and touching on some of the latest technologies. So that one, really sticks in my mind, to be quite honest with you.
Fantastic. And here's me thinking it's not from the last 12 months. It's just something I've seen recently. And that was the Carlsberg Old Lions advert that preceded the World Cup in 2006. So that's what I'm thinking. And
Yeah.
you are just, I'm back in time. You're forward in time. So, on that note, to start us off, Katie, you've got a decade's worth of experience in working with AI. Could you give us some background on how you've seen the artificial intelligence landscape shift in that period and how businesses have had to react to those changes?
Yeah, that's a great place to start because when I wrote the first book, Craig, it came out in 2019. So I was writing it actually in 2016, 2017, and then it takes a little while for them to turn it around and so on. Everyone was really skeptical, but also you either had super skepticism or you had people being told open up your shopping bag and buy some AI, and everything was incredibly shoot from the hip, really tactical. So that's one thing I would say. The big change from that is it is more strategic now, but also there's far less skepticism, and I think that's come from the fact that, particularly in the last year or so, we've had generative AI burst onto the scene. So everybody, Joe Public, we've all got our hands on AI, Gen AI. And I think when we actually can see and play with it, it reduces the fear a little bit. So I've seen less skepticism, still some fear and confusion, but probably the biggest thing is that Gen AI woke us all up to using it. Um, and one other thing I would say in that time, in that decade or so, is that, we've had over the 70 years that AI has been in business, we've had summers and winters. And the reason it's changed so much in the last few years is that we've got two things. Number one, we've got data, and AI is big data, AI is insights, and we've got all that data from years of the internet, smartphone technology, social platforms. And then number two, we've got cheap compute power. So that's made it viable. That's meant all of the, many of the venture capitalists have invested in it. And so you've got disruptors coming into every job function, sales, marketing, HR, finance, and every industry sector as well.
Thank you. And you mentioned the kind of the boom around generative AI that landed probably last year, I would think. And you know, promising to drive that sea of change across all industries. So, from that, how will businesses and individuals need to adapt the way they approach their work in the future?
Hugely, but it's not, it so depends on the sector that they're in. So, a heavily regulated industry sector like banking, financial services, or pharmaceuticals is really having to adapt. They're having to think about their legislation, their compliance, the particularly sensitive nature of the data that they hold. And that's very different perhaps to, certain other sectors. But all of us have to think about what's driving this. How is the legislation changing? We've got the EU AI Act now. We've got AI, different sort of security setups with the Americans and the UK. So on the one hand, we've got them having to think about, this is a serious C-suite activity. So the board, it's got to be a very strategic piece of work. The board have got to sit over it because this impacts obviously technology and legal. The tech people buying in the skills for that, and the technology platforms and tools, the legal teams and the HR teams making sure that they're compliant, making sure that we're skilled. So I think it really requires strategic focus, new mindset, real agility, but most of all, a strategy. And I think that's the biggest change. There's no point just saying, oh, great, we're going to allow our staff to use Gen AI, or we're going to ban Gen AI. We've got to have a plan. So I think the strategy and the AI playbook and the governance, all of those mean it is a huge business transformation, whatever sector you're in and however big you are.
Thank you. And just staying on that strategic element at the moment, from I suppose looking to drive AI adoption and strategy in an
Hmm.
organization, rather than view it, I suppose, as a standalone technology. I think in your book you also promote the strategic integration of AI into the business.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit deeper, perhaps, of the importance of that?
Absolutely. So, what we don't want is just to disrupt what we're doing by bringing in new tools, making people redundant. We've got to really start from the point of view of what are maybe, and I'm not going to limit it to three, but let's take, two or three as an example. What are three areas where AI can solve problems that we have in our business? At the heart of what most businesses are about is this concept of the marketing, which is, the definition, satisfying customer needs profitably. Now, remove the profit if we're in the third sector, the charitable sector. But we're starting from that premise of, what are we trying to achieve as an organization? Who are our customers or clients? What are their goals? How can we meet their needs, exceed their needs? How can we differentiate ourselves? So, AI's role and how it can reshape the way we do our HR to attract and retain the best talent, how we can do incredible sales and marketing, how we can use it for improved customer experience or CX. That's what I mean by it being very strategic, rather than just opening it up and saying, we've got access now to DALI and Midjourney, or Copilot, or whatever the tools might be. It is actually taking a step back and working out what's our strategy for using it in the next 6 months so it becomes part of our modus operandi, but where's it going to help us take our organization over the next 1 to 5 years?
So on that, I kind of see that as this needs to be driven from the very top of the organisation, and with that strategic level of involvement and support.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, the board need to help, that they need to set the strategy. They need to be thinking about, what are the values of our organization? What are our goals? How do they bring the rest of the organization with them on that journey? And then all that, whether it's a chief HR director or a chief technology officer or a CMO, presuming they are board level roles. If not, then there may be one down from that. How do we then gear the rest of the organizations and all the department up, to be able to do that? And that means educating them, upskilling them, giving them access to the tools, giving them that training, setting the framework for that, protecting them and giving them all of the compliance and the playbook and so on. So yeah, it absolutely is. And unfortunately, certainly going back a few years, and I think it's still the case, we had too many boards that were not diverse enough and often were aging and eyeing retirement and in their comfort zones and not always wanting to plan for the further future and not being prepared to put themselves out of their comfort zone as far as tech. But this, particularly the pandemic and now AI, is forcing them to do that. And I think we have seen more diversity on boards and younger board members, and just a greater yeah, a greater diversity really.
Thank you. And just looking at that, I'd like to maybe drill into kind of some of the uses for AI in the workplace. You've already touched on a few. I think that you were talking about marketing,
Mm,
personalization. That's key to my heart. And you know, as a community, we communicate with our members a lot about what's happening, about what we're doing, and what we're trying to do is ensure that we communicate with the right people about the right things. And
absolutely.
personalisation is I feel crucial to that. You mentioned marketing. Obviously, I'm guessing that's data driven. I think you touched on automation, efficiency. So, what do you feel, if we can just drill a bit further into the best current uses of AI in the workplace?
AI, without a doubt, is touching, every business function. And of course, it depends on your objectives and your goals as an organization. But let's say you're thinking about AI in your HR. You could be looking at tools like Textio to spot a bias in a job posting, or you could be using a tool like Talio to get insights on your workforce and doing performance monitoring. And then, as you mentioned, you've got marketing, AI driven content. Of course, you've got ChatGPT, but you've got others like Phrasey and Movable Ink and tools that can help you with keyword targeting for search engine optimization. But then you've got AI that can help the tech team with cybersecurity. You've got everyday AI, for productivity, tools like Firefly, tools like Otter AI. So, we do have to think about this strategically, but we must be bringing the board, the legal, the tech team together, perhaps with the owners of each department, to work out what their objectives are and what are going to be the best tools to help them achieve their goals, really.
Thank you. And that's you've touched on so many tools so far, and I only had in my mind the likes of ChatGPT, Copilot from a Microsoft perspective, Joule from an SAP perspective. Yet you've mentioned so many that are currently out there. What are perhaps some of the best tools out there for business at the moment to take advantage of?
That's a tricky one to answer, really, Craig, because best depends on fit for purpose, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And, what does best mean? It could be that there's a Gartner Cool Vendor Award that a tool has just, been voted. It could be that something that's a marketing tool, like Jasper content is written by marketing professionals and therefore superb, for the marketing agencies and the in-house teams. But others might be perfectly satisfied using ChatGPT. It will depend on budget. It will depend on how regulated they are, what their goals are, as well. So, and it's changing every day. Just 2 or 3 days ago, we've had Google's VEO, which is a video generation tool. We've got Astra coming in a few months' time. So, it really depends on the goal of the organization and the fact that these are improving continuously.
Thank you. And just you mentioned the EU AI Act earlier, and thinking about that, when we talk about this in an SAP perspective, SAP talk about, reliable and responsible AI. And, so when we look at these reg- regulatory acts that are coming in place now, do you feel that these changes will positively impact the use of AI in the future?
Again, it's not black and white. It depends on many factors. I think my overriding answer would be yes. We've got to be careful to balance innovation and regulation. But I think I'm thinking back to the Bletchley Declaration at the end, latter part of last year, which was signed by, 28 countries. There is without a doubt a shared sense of urgency now in the communities around the world. And I feel that actually, in many respects, it's got to move quicker and go deeper. And I think there's a need for what we might call an international agency for oversight and for the monitoring of AI algorithms. I liken it to the International Atomic Energy Agency. We need something like that. So I do think it's positive. I hope that it comes onto the statute books quickly. I believe it's coming within weeks, and that it's monitored and policed. Without that, it becomes useless, really, doesn't it? But it's being seen as a barometer for many countries around the world to follow, and it's essential that we all have it. That we all have variations of that. So that's really really important. But it needs to continue. And for me, the biggest positive change that needs to come from all of it is that societal good must come from the implementation of AI.
That's very good. And completely agree with that, and that ethical and responsible AI adoption. So if we put the regulatory changes at the top, or the regulation driving it, hopefully, but are there ways businesses and organisations can ensure that they're using AI in a safe and ethical way for societal good, if you like?
Yes, I think so, but I don't think much of that is happening at the moment. Organizations are starting to come to people like me saying, please help us to develop what we're calling like an AI playbook. Also, something akin to think of the social media policies that more and more organizations latterly started to adopt, years after there were all the many issues of legislation around, the use of social media platforms. So, yes, they need a playbook, they need their own codes of conduct. The lawyers, and I've been out in Amsterdam with the Association of Chief Legal Counsel, they're angsting over how do we protect our teams, for example, our marketing and sales teams, stop them from inadvertently violating copyrights and trademarks and so on when they're using Midjourney and DALI and ChatGPT. So there's work to be done, but yes, they can start to understand it, make sure they're compliant, make sure that they don't wait passively for it to come, but that they work with their trade bodies and their think tanks in a very, very proactive way. And I think this is helpful for their own, if you like, their own reputation management and their own thought leadership, that they actually help to input to that regulation, and make sure that it is actually moving in the right direction. Because again, all industry sectors are very, very different and have different requirements for that. So for me, it's about proactivity, not being passive, and starting to collaborate perhaps even with your competitors and your think tanks and your trade bodies to work around it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I Sub membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I Sub referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And just taking another step back a little, if I may, and looking at, I suppose, what underpins and helps support AI, especially generative AI, kind of give you the right answers in the right way that you're looking for. And that, I suppose, is data and ensuring you have right data. So how important is data in this?
Yeah, it's fundamental. It's without eclectic, diverse data sets, we are going to continue to fuel bias, whether that's gender, whether it's sexuality, whether it's, your ethnicity. It's garbage in, garbage out. So if all of our data is focused on hiring the same sort of people that we've hired for the last 20, 30, 40 years, then how are we going to be able to proactively attract talent from different demographics, different ethnicities, and so on? So it is about data. It's about having a policy, for hiring in a very inclusive way as well. It's about educating, and that might require the board to be educated as well, not just, people all the way down the education. So, I think that is really, really important.
And just on that point with that HR and hiring focus, so if we think about generative AI, and this is my simplistic thinking, is that we're utilising the data that we have. So we've got, as you mentioned, all of those people we've employed over the last 20, 30 years, and we're looking at, okay, the right people for the right roles. And if it's taking the data from that particular pool, then are we not going to get what we've had before? How do organisations ensure how can we remove the bias, if you like, to
Mm.
ensure we're not just employing exactly the same people that we have for the last
Yeah.
20 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a few things. First of all, we've got to foster the inclusion. So we've got to encourage the collaboration. We've got to promote that dialogue. We've got to have diverse data collection. We need fair outcomes. We've got to collect diverse representative data. That actually is bigger than what we can do as organizations. That means, unfortunately, we're dominated, aren't we, by a small number of big technology companies that have trained the large language models that we're accessing. There needs to be more internationalization of that, and greater diversity there, but also regular, bias assessments. So we've got to review the algorithms, we've got to review our data sources, we've got to have training processes in place so that they can recognize and prevent errors. We need all of that to happen. So, it might be the tools that we buy in, it might be the people that we hire to train our algorithms, it might be, a whole range of those kinds of tools. And approaches, seeking input from different communities, different experts, different affected individuals, and then coming up with the ethical frameworks, the ethical guidelines as to how it's used for diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example. So, that's important to develop the right algorithms, to deploy them, and to keep governing them, and that's an ongoing piece of work.
So it's not just a case of plugging in the technology, leaning back in a chair with a brew, putting the feet up and letting it do all the work then.
It used to be, didn't it? You could be complacent, you could sit back and think, oh, 18 months obsolescence. Now it's like, whoa, I'm having to keep up to speed every day with all the new developments. So it's, yeah, we're all on a journey of continuous learning, unfortunately. And for some, that's very, very uncomfortable. For others, it's exciting. It doesn't matter whether you're 57 like me or, 20. We've all got access to this, but we need the continuous curiosity and investment and training. And for companies, that means constantly thinking about our strategy and the tools we buy in and the watching brief we have on the competition and so on. It's ongoing. It's complex.
It certainly is. Thank you. And just on the subject of kind of influence, etc., and how that works. Alongside your work in AI, I saw that you were featured in the CIO Times list of the most iconic women leaders creating waves in the modern AI industry. So, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. It's all good
And
PR, isn't
it is indeed.
it?
And we actually have a women in SAP community. And, are there any steps you feel that businesses, and in particular maybe technology businesses, as kind of, technology seems to be still a male dominated industry, and any steps you feel that they can take to create a more positive environment for women?
Yeah, I do. I think it comes down to there should be grants, there should be education, there should be policies for proactively hiring more. There should be, as you say, these community groups where we're not only talking, but we're listening to what their needs are. I'm an international keynote speaker, and even today on LinkedIn, I saw a lady asking, I'm a keynote speaker. Why am I the only woman at all of these conferences around the world when, 99% of it is male dominated? So I think it's about planning. It's about not just resting on your laurels and looking back at what you've done for many, many years, but, making sure that that's part of your policy. And that stems from the board, that stems from HR, it stems from educating and encouragement. Women often are more reticent to speak up. They might be equally capable and skilled and so on. So we should be in our teams educating our managers to be able to find that and look for that and encourage it and make sure it is equal. So I think it's part of the DE&I policy, but it's more than that. It's grants, it's education, it's a policy, and so on.
Oh, thank you very much. And just kind of as we come perhaps towards the end of our conversation, and of course, given the speed that AI companies are innovating at the moment, it may be extremely difficult to predict. Well, I'm guessing it will be. But in your opinion, let's try. What will be the next major AI development?
Oh, it's tricky, isn't it? I wish I had a crystal ball. I think the AI agents are going to be huge. I think once we've got these advanced types of AI assistants, taking ChatGPT much, much further. Google are calling theirs Astra. It's going to come out later on in the year. These advanced agents, I think, will surpass what we've been able to do so far because they're going to have the reasoning, they're going to have memory skills, they're going to have planning. I'm not a believer that we're going to have an all singing, all dancing robot that's going to do all the jobs for us. That's certainly not in my lifetime, I don't believe. But I do think our AI assistants in a very advanced way, in multiple languages, being able to talk to one another, ambient voice, linked in with what's happening with Internet of Things, where again, through touch, through advanced sort of digital humans, I think we'll see that in smart medicine, in smart healthcare, in smart education. I don't know the time frames. I'd like to think it would be in 5 years. It all depends on budget, on legislation, on the kind of investments that we make. But I think we'll see the ability for AI to help us crack some, big important breakthroughs, hopefully in climate and in medicine. So actually, I see AI's role societally being huge. And back to my point earlier about smart, AI is not the big shiny robot coming and taking all of our jobs. AI means big data and insights. And if we've got insights about our customers with a marketing hat on, if we've got insights about the personalized, my health record, my, medical history from my parents and my lifestyle. And then if you combine that, hopefully, eventually with some budget for the NHS, we should be able to see AI having a big impact on, very personalized learning, very personalized medicine, very personalized sales and marketing. And that I think is exciting and positive. But of course, like everything else, it can be exploited. And the thing that worries me most are the deep fakes. In an election year, that's going to be huge. But so I would say the advanced AI agents is going to be in the nearer term a very, exciting space.
Oh, thank you very much. And just on that, yes, the chatbots at the moment, it may be just me, but God, they're awful.
Yeah, they
We
are.
having proper AI agents that actually work will be fantastic, and I think we all hope for that, to be able to get the right answers we need without going round in circles and then just having to go back to speak to a person in any case.
I couldn't agree more, Craig. But having that human in the loop is constant
Exactly.
to avoid the hallucinations, to have the human touch. Who wants to work for a company where every touch point, with them has been digital and a bot? We don't want to become faceless organizations. We can't expect the AI to do everything. We are our creativity, our humanity, our strategy. That's important. So hopefully the AI will do more of the automating of the tasks that are not necessarily mundane, but time consuming and easy for an AI to do. And we go up the food chain and we're freed up to be more strategic.
Amen to that. Certainly hope that is the way it all goes. And look, Katie, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and your insights. Very, very good conversation from my perspective, anyway. So thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Craig. Great questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. If you'd like more information on Katie's organisation and what they can do for you, then if you visit aiinbusiness.co.uk, you will find more information and details there. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. So please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and be happy.